Hello, everybody. It's 8:38 p.m. Central Time on the 25th of April, 2023. It's Tuesday here in the United States, and we're kind of on a talking roll right now, so good time for me to do an update, bring you up to speed on what's hit since last night. If you're not aware, we had some significant earthquake activity over the past 48 hours north of New Zealand, multiple sevens, a day and a half ago. Then last night, yesterday, a 7 struck over in Indonesia. You see it rolling by on the screen here right now. Well, that kind of just brings you up to speed on what hit yesterday. You can go see my video from yesterday talking about these two large quakes and what to look for. And in that video yesterday, about 32 to 33 minutes into the video, somebody in chat asked me about New Zealand, and I didn't mention New Zealand in the actual recorded update, but you can go watch in the chat from last night. And I posted it in the chat and then pinned it up top for everybody to read about what to watch for in New Zealand. And last night we told you, and you can go check it on my video, 5.5 at Cook Strait. Cook Strait is right at the center of the screen here. And Cook Strait just north by northeast of Wellington right here. We now see a 5.9 reported by the Australians, 5.6, 5.2, somewhere in that range, 5.4, mid-range 5, struck at the Cook Strait, or just northeast of it, again, right here. I'm going to open up a post or a earthquake from the USGS, and then this should help us also identify the plate boundaries, the red lines between the plates. So you have to remember these red lines between plates because these are the boundaries where the earthquakes flow. The wave drops off earthquakes somewhat equidistantly spaced across regions, and the earthquakes that get dropped off are increasing in size as the wave is increasing in magnitude or amplitude. And the spacing is, well, in this case, 1,000 miles apart almost. Well, no, 1,000 kilometers apart. Here, for instance, going across 4,000 kilometers from here to here to here to here. You can see it on the screen. The most recent earthquake by the USGS just struck, and that's a 5.0 at Papua New Guinea. But I want to bring you back down to New Zealand. New Zealand, the reason we warned the Cook Strait, which is right here, and the reason you just got hit right next to the Cook Strait is because there is a wave flowing down and across all the way down towards Antarctica, where the plate boundary dead ends into Antarctica. Over to the west, it's flowing. You can see it dropped off same-sized earthquakes all the way across the region. And down to the south, it's a little bit bigger because you just got your big disturbance to the north. The big disturbance is right here. And where did this come from, the big disturbance? It came from a big, deep 7 that happened 10 days ago. 10 days ago, there was a big, deep 7 right here by our letter D's, just west of our letter D, at Indonesia. 10 days ago, when that big deep 7 struck, I told people to watch to the west, over to Indonesia, all the way out to the edge of the plate boundary out to the west at the Indian Ocean, and I told people to watch all the way down here north of New Zealand to the Kermadec Islands, which is what you see here, the big 7. Since then, the new 6, or mid-range 5, struck at the Cook Strait, and it's been several months. I want to say it's maybe a month and a half since you've had anything even close in this size down at New Zealand. It was felt across the Wellington area by many people. Now, something else struck. Let's go all the way over here, and let me take you back to a day and a half ago. There we go. See it? 5.8, 5.9. Now, wait a second. That's what just struck over here. According to the Australians, it's a 5.9. According to some others, it's 5.6, 5.7, whatever. It's the same size. And the new 5.5 that struck over to the west, and the new 5 on the north side. Here's the last 2 days worth of quakes. Notice, or 3 days. Notice anything? Wait, hold on. Let's compare to this, to the Indo-Australian plate boundary now. So going from the Indian Ocean down here, where you don't see it on the USGS map, and then up and around India, back down and across Indonesia, back over to Fiji, and back down to New Zealand. That's the whole plate boundary, and that's what's moved in the past day and a half to 2 days. 3 days at the most if you want to incorporate in the 5.8 to the southwest. There's only one spot missing to be filled in, and that's down here at the Dutch Sense logo. And when that happens, and it should, that will make the whole Indo-Australian plate displaced in 2 to 3 days. I've never seen that before. In my entire time reporting on this, I've never seen a ring of earthquakes all the way around the Indo-Australian plate in a few days' time. Maybe in a few weeks' time, but in a few days' time, no. So something's going on down below the Indo-Australian plate. How do I know that? Well, let's go back 10 days. Right here, the deep earthquake struck 10 days ago. Now over to the west, 7. Over to the far east, 7. Then we get 6s going down, or 5.5, down towards New Zealand. 6s, or 5.5, striking down here at the South Indian Ocean. And now a new 5.5 reported up here in the Northwest Indian Ocean. And again, this one could go up or down. It, too, somewhere in the mid-range 5 level. It's at 5 right now, all the way around the outside edge. In the middle is Australia. And over the past 2 to 3 days, we have the Australian feed turned on. Notice anything, guys? How about the lack of reporting of earthquakes from certain agencies? So the Australian feed turned on. Now you can see on the 21st, 4 days ago, next to Ayers Rock, right smack in the middle, right where we were looking for. But the agencies that we trust to report this information to us, the Europeans, EMSC, who I'm not using anymore, USGS, oh, we don't report under 4.5 internationally? Well, what about the 2 over in Egypt on Christmas Day, you weirdos? So here we are, 3.3 in the middle of Australia when I'm looking for one. We warned for this. I know it's just a small quake, but there it is. Not reported by the other agencies. We have to literally go check the Australian agency. Also, you should notice, Perth is moving, and if you add these together, it equals 3.0. So we have a 3 in the middle and a 3 in the southwest. That's a big, big deal to see in comparison to nothing. We were being shown nothing over the past several days. When we're looking, you go check the feeds, nothing. They're not showing it to you. Why? Why is the EMSC omitting earthquakes in central Australia when they're showing 2s in the middle of nowhere? It just doesn't make any sense, other than they don't want you to see it. Now that I found out a source of my hacking is coming from the EMSC directly over in Europe, it's troubling. Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you guys. Anyway. So, going around the outside edge of the Indo-Australian plate. 7s on both sides, north and east. 6s creeping down south and over west, or mid-range 5s, depending on which way you want to look at it. I've got a warning going now in China. Let's go over and show you where. Here's the Indo-Australian plate. And look what happens. We go up into China. We make a hard bend at Bangladesh, North Myanmar, and go across Nepal. This is on the northwest side of the Indo-Australian plate. Now, China, right here at the bend, we're going to watch Myanmar-China border region right in here, Bangladesh to the west. There's Bangladesh, Myanmar, I guess Bhutan too also. So we watch at the bend as this wave is going to be coming around and going over to the west. The wave of what? The wave of the big disturbance that's happening that came up from down below the plate 10 days ago. Now, a lot of people contacting me, and I didn't even know this was happening. Mega solar storm taking place. Sorry, I almost just knocked the microphone over. Mega solar storm taking place yesterday. Last night, the day before, going into yesterday. Northern lights visible all the way down here to northern Missouri, apparently. Now, I didn't see it, but other people did, and there's all kinds of pictures. Now, that's pretty rare. Big solar storm. I don't know if it was a G1, G2 level storm, but it was fairly large. And we don't normally get northern lights coming down this far south. Now, what that means is everywhere from Missouri all the way back up to the North Pole was glowing in the sky with northern lights. Well, what are the northern lights? What are they? What's the glow? The glow are charged particles scuffing their feet across the carpet of the Earth's upper ionosphere atmosphere. The sun emits charged particles from solar events, whether it's a flare or a CME, a coronal mass ejection, or a filament rupture that's headed towards Earth, or, again, like a large solar flare. Strong solar wind, too, from coronal holes. Anyway, when the charged particles hit the Earth's ionosphere, they're scuffing their feet across the carpet. And there's glow that develops. Instead of when you go over and touch a doorknob or touch someone and you shock them, you've built up that charge like a capacitor inside of you or a battery, and you're discharging that all out through your finger, and you zap yourself or someone else after you've scuffed your feet across the carpet. In this case, Mother Nature is doing a huge amount of power. It's causing air glow in the atmosphere. All that energy goes down to ground. Ground is the crust. The magnetic field lines of the Earth go down into the Earth. It goes further than the crust, though. It goes down through the magma, down to the core, the magnetic core of the Earth, the plasma torch at the center of the Earth. There's a plasma torch down there, electrically powered from the sun. And imagine you're plugging into the wall to plug in an industrial plasma torch to cut through almost any material. Now, amplify that by God knows how much, and instead of plugging into the wall, you're plugging into the charged particles from the sun, which are coming down to the core of the Earth. So when we get a big influx of power from the sun, it goes down to ground. Then it comes back up a few days later. Not even that long. 2 to 3 days at the most. So the charge happens up in the sky. You see the air glow. Then that converts to DC power. It goes down into the crust once it converts from AC to DC. AC-DC. Goes from AC, alternating current, up in the atmosphere. And then when Earth absorbs it down into the crust, efficiency scaling takes place naturally. And it changes from AC to DC, direct current, which then goes to the core and powers the core. Once the core gets a lot of power, guess what increases? Deep earthquakes start to pop off all over the place. So, let's recap. Big solar event happens. Sends charged particles to Earth. They scuff their feet across the carpet of the Earth. Air glow happens. So much is there. Then it converts to power and goes down into the ground. Converts to electricity. It goes down into the ground. Goes down to the core. And then a couple days later, the core starts to show the effect, which is vibration, very low frequency. This core, the core of the Earth, huge. However, whether it's square, round, whatever, whether it's rotating or standing still, it's like a bass speaker. Very low frequency vibrating out of it. Or ultra low frequency, extremely low frequency. Vibrating up and out of it. You put more power into it, you turn up the volume, guess what? Amplitude increases. Like on an amplifier for your stereo. You turn up the volume, or you're surprised to see that the sound increases when you increase the power? All right, so we're talking about the increase of deep earthquakes in the next 3 days. So 25th now, 26th, 27th, 28th. By the 28th, we should be seeing a new round of deep earthquakes pop off, as if we aren't going through enough already. Where our letter Ds are at Fiji, Indonesia, Japan, Kamchatka, Middle East, and South America. That's where our Ds are. And that's where we watch for new deep earthquakes to pop off excessively, starting within the next few days. Once those new deep earthquakes pop off, you'll see them raised off the planet here. Then we watch for a new round of earthquake activity. And it's going to be bigger. The next round is going to be bigger than what we currently have. Why? Because think of it like this. How can I put it? You guys swam in a swimming pool before? You ever been in a swimming pool with somebody who gets a raft and they start making waves with the raft, jumping up and down, holding the big raft, and then all of a sudden other people join in, and next thing you know, there's like 2 or 3 people in the pool, and they're sitting there, and they're all taking their rafts, and they're going up and down with the raft, and the whole pool becomes a giant sloshing wave tank. Now, if all those people were doing it in unison perfectly from one end of the tank, a wave would go down and come back to them. And if they did it again at the right time, the second wave would go down and come back and coincide with the third wave. They would overlap and pass through each other. Then what would happen is a standing wave would form in the pool. 2 waves, 3 waves, 4 waves, as many times as they do it, as many times as they pump energy into the pool. So these new deep earthquakes are going to pump more energy. It's like another person with a raft, and it's a big person with a big raft, jumping in to an already sloshing wave tank. Now that you understand that simple analogy, the waves follow these red lines. This is the tank, but the waves are following the outside edge because the tank is filled with something. Stone, in this case, a plate. And around the outside edge is where the wave travels. So imagine a wave tank where this is the outside edge of the wave tank and the wave goes around the outside edge while the middle is filled with solid substance. That's what we're dealing with. A wave going around a tank. And it drops off the same-sized earthquakes all the way along the way. So we're getting ready to go through it, I think, even more now that this new solar storm has arrived. Hence my new update now. So yesterday, people were asking me about it, what to look for. I'm telling you today, within 3 days of the arrival of the solar storm, new deep earthquakes, and then a big increase from where we already are. And since we're already at mid-range 7s, and we would take a big increase, that would take us to upper 7s on the next round. So we're about to take a step up from low 7s to high 7s, and that's a big deal. So up in Japan, for instance, or over in South America at Bolivia, just 2 examples. I've got other warnings going, but you can go watch the update from yesterday if you want to get the full scoop on the forecast. But we've got a warning going just north of Japan at Kuril Islands. And that's where we're going to watch for a potential extremely large quake. And then we also have the potential in between our current sets of quakes, blah, 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 my update yesterday again. Let's go talk about the United States really quick and just show you what happened here. A lot of people asking me about the Northeast. Now, I have to turn on something, which I show all the time, but one more time, the Craton diagram up in the Northeast. So look at the earthquakes. Another new 3 struck on top of the 3.6 to 4, on top of the previous 4. Clearly, something's going on in the Northeast on the edge of the Craton. This was forecast. We were looking for this to happen. We were looking for the wave to go across the United States up to the Northeast, and that's why I issued the warnings off the coast of Delaware, not off the coast. At Delaware, New Jersey, we got a 4.5 off the coast of. Now these earthquakes in the Northeast. North American Craton is shifting. Now you can expect mystery booms and rumbles to show up along with this. You might start hearing booms and rumbles or feeling them in the Northeast. They'll try to blame that on other things like sonic booms and just anything except for seismic shift, because professionals do not want to admit that there is a flow that goes across the United States and goes up to the Northeast. I know that for a fact. How do I know that? Every time it's happened, they came out with an excuse cover story for the earthquakes and the explosions and the rumbles and booms. Every single time. They blame it on like a jet or on methane explosion in the ground, that kind of stuff. Okay, so the new 2.9, where did it hit? It hit at New Hampshire. Center Sandwich, New Hampshire. Well, isn't that an interesting place? Let's go take a look and see what's nearby, shall we? New Hampshire. Anybody we know live up in New Hampshire? Ah, what a beautiful area. What do we got here? Some tennis courts. Must be a rich, exclusive area. Look, each house has its own tennis court. What is this, the Hamptons? Nice. Somebody's living, what is that? La Dolce Vita? The good life? Okay, Moultonborough. Anything else at Squam Lake, Center Sandwich? I'm looking for any kind of power plants or anything of any huge power lines. I've never looked at this area before, so I quite frankly don't know anything that's here. But with a body of water like this, you would think that they would utilize this for some kind of power generation. You'd be foolish not to. Anytime you got a big body of water, you tend to get a big power plant next to it, right? Can I get an amen to that? Okay, all right. And since I don't see any power plants there, it doesn't mean there aren't any. I just, again, absence of one doesn't mean that they're completely gone. Okay. We're on the edge of the Craton. That's all I can see for the time being at the location. And same with the earthquakes over to the west. I don't know of anything nearby at the New York border, the 3.6 at the New York border, but I didn't look it up, so maybe we should go look it up. You know, I always tell all my students to go look up the earthquakes. Is that what you are, students, viewers? I always tell my viewers to go look things up. But here I am, and I didn't look it up myself. Okay, there's Watertown, Henderson, Adams, Barnes, Corner. I don't see anything nearby that makes any sense. Do you guys? Other than the Creighton Edge, of course. Again, if we had a big power plant here, or if we had some kind of significant nuclear power facility or something here nearby, I would then raise my eyebrows. But my eyebrows are not too raised here. We're on the edge of the Creighton. So back to it. Creighton Edge. Let me show it to you one more time. There. And it's moving in the northeast. So if you're wondering where it came from, see the size earthquakes? 3.4, 3.6, 2.9. Look over on the west coast. If you take this and add it together, what struck on the west coast over the past 2 days? Here, let me show you. Right there. 3.2 plus 3.3 equals 3.45. Add in another 3.1, and we're at 3.56. We're at another 3, and we're at 3.69. So we have a 3.69's worth of energy. That's how fine of a point we can add this up to. 3.69. And then what strikes over to the east, on the east edge of the Creighton? 3.6. And I don't know if it's a 3.69. Down to a very fine point. Same size energy on the west coast, same size energy on the east coast. And the wave is going across that Creighton Edge. And it's not losing much momentum. It's not losing much power. I mean, again, if it's a 3.6's worth of energy on the west coast and a 3.6's energy on the east coast, that's hardly any loss of power across the plate. Elasticity what? Unless elasticity induces earthquake flow, then what's going on here? I propose to you that there's not much loss of energy at all. It's 3.69 on the west coast, like almost a 3.7's worth of energy, and then a 3.6 over on the east coast. And that hair of a point of loss, just not much at all, is a giant wave that goes all the way across the United States from peak to peak. One peak on the west coast, one peak in Texas, one peak over on the east coast of the wave. Right? So I guess that would be 3 waves, but you get the idea that it would be a huge, long wave that's passing through tens of thousands of miles, and it loses power over tens of thousands of miles, and therefore going across the United States is just a couple thousand miles. So it's not much loss at all seen. So you get 3.6 on the west coast, you get a 3.6 on the east coast, because the wave peaks are just one wave or two in between them. That's how far apart the waves are and how big they are. Very low frequency. Hundreds, if not thousands of miles between each wave peak. Here's another example of the spread going out across. You get a 4.6 and a series of 5s. And down here to the south, you get a 5.5 and a 5.5. Now, they don't look similar in size, but the spacing. And to the south, it is the same size. It's 5.5, 5.5, and 5.5. Or 5.5, 5.4, 5.2, depending on who you go with. Either way, it's the same sized earthquakes within a hair of a point going across this fracture zone, down and across and down to the South Sandwich Islands. Now, why does that matter? Let me show you. We went down, across, down, and over. Same sized earthquakes all the way across this. In a day's time, 2 days at the most. So what just happened? Something came across a wave. It went down the fracture zone underneath South America and dead-ended down into Antarctica's South Sandwich Islands. Right across. How many times are we going to say sandwich in this update? Isn't that weird? South Sandwich Islands down here. Up in New Hampshire, we're at sandwich. Give me a sandwich. Oh, I could have made a Northeast joke, like made the accent and stuff. Hey, go park the car at the car park. Get me a sandwich. Sorry, I had to. All right, so the only thing missing now is a new earthquake. Going down and around the bend of the plate. It shouldn't just strike back by, what is that, the Falklands? Shouldn't strike by the Falklands. Should strike down going around the edge of the bend of the plate. But it should be equidistantly spaced in between them all. So right down in here at the south tip of Chile or Argentina. And if I'm going to venture a guess, I would venture a guess that it would be about the same size as all the others, which are all 5.5. Now up to the north, look at that. Going around the outside edge of the plate. What plate? Back to the USGS map. Look, north side. Cocos Plate. The Cocos Plate, all the way around it, going over to the east, over into the Caribbean, over to Puerto Rico and Venezuela. So the only thing missing now is a new earthquake here in Colombia to fill in the point, but Nevado del Ruiz volcano show up. I can never roll my R's, but I'm practicing, I'm trying. Not mocking anybody's accent, just so you know, I really am trying to learn how to roll my R's. I'm a Missourian, I'm screwed either way. But let's go check the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. Yes, class, you can try and do your best to speak and pronunciate. It'll never work. It'll never work. Let's hit refresh on this and just make sure we have the most recent eruptions. So Popocatépetl, Sabancaya, Fuego, Semeru, Ducono, Sanjay, Ibu, Popocatépetl, Semeru, Fuego, Nevado del Ruiz. What else? That's it? Okay, those are the same volcanoes over and over again. That's, I suppose, good news. Now, I caught a volcanic blurb from Fiji saying they were watching on the northeast side of Fiji on these little tremors that were showing up. And I thought it was weird that any kind of reporting on tremors in Fiji would be showing up. And that volcano there, I don't know the name of it. Is it Kira Kira? I think it's Sira Sira or Kira Kira. Kima Kima, it's something like that. You guys can look it up. If we see anything reported volcanically out of Fiji, we'll know, and I'll get back to it, okay? I just wanted to point that out. West Coast United States, we've got a new 5.5 earthquake warning that I issued yesterday for North California at Eureka at the south side of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Now that 5.5s are striking all over the place. 5.5 down here, 5.5 down here, 5.5 over here, 5.5 over here, 5.5 over here. That's a lot of 5.5 and going on that I would think that we're going to be looking at something like that in Northern California as well. So I already issued the warning for that yesterday, in case you missed yesterday's warning. Anything else to talk about? Let's go over and quickly look at Europe. So Europe moved to Turkey, South Europe, over at the Bulgaria border, and then down south by Malta. This is along the plate boundary in South Europe in the Mediterranean. So I haven't issued any warnings since I flopped in Greece. None. No forecast, no warnings. Wanted to figure out where the energy went. Well, the energy did escape out of Turkey. The flow has resumed going over towards Italy. So now, in the center of the whole mess is the Aegean Sea, yet once again. And we're back to the Aegean Sea as a spot to watch for a new break to take place that could be fairly significant in the next 7 to 10 days. We're flirting around with 7s and 6s in the West Pacific. Ultimately, that means 7s and 6s over to the west, and 7s and 6s up to the north, and 7s and 6s over to the east. That's why I've issued all those warnings. Oh, one other thing. Opposite side of the planet. It's like a giant ring of quakes in the last 48 hours. And my warned area, right here. So just as a point of reference, these things are like giant rings. You can look around them and find the middle points between them. They're pretty obvious to see. So using the wave tank analogy again, of a bunch of people in a pool making waves, if these were all people in the pool making waves and you get right in the middle in between all of them, you're going to be experiencing the overlap point. It's called interferometry there, where all the waves overlap. You're going to be at the scalar. The scalar is the point where all the points overlap. So you'll be at the scalar in the swimming pool of the intersection of all the waves. So that's getting ready to happen. China's going to get hit, most likely, in the next few days. High and dry right now, all around you. Again, look at it. You have to be a planet away to see it, but then you see China's like a giant open target with no earthquakes in there at all of any significance. I would expect that to change in the middle because you're surrounded on all sides by major wave movement, unless the Chinese have figured out a way to dissipate that wave. And I think there is a way to absorb and dissipate this wave to stop earthquakes. I think there's a way. Yeah. I don't know if we'd want to, but I think there's a way. And if you could stop them, that means you can also start the wave. That's not good either. So I better just keep my mouth shut. Okay, 9:08 p.m. Central Time. This is just a cursory, rudimentary lookup of the current earthquakes. I didn't really spend much time looking them up, like down in Texas, for instance. The biggest earthquake of the bunch that hit today, it's just another oil well. Do you need to see it? Have you ever seen an oil well, class? Who here has ever never seen an earthquake next to an oil or gas pumping operation? Let me tell you a story as we go look this one up, and then we'll sign off. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago, actually. A series of earthquakes started to strike across the central and south United States, including Texas. I had a young channel, my channel newly formed, and maybe a few thousand subscribers at the most, in my soft voice where I wasn't commanding at all and was so meek and meager on the microphone. But there I am, young Dutch, showing the earthquakes next to the drill points. And there are all these professionals using their actual names and their credentials down below my videos, mocking and ridiculing me, saying there's no relation between drill points and earthquakes, and that fracking earthquakes are extremely rare and minor, including one of the top people in the industry. Then a series of 5.0 range earthquakes struck across Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas at the oil and gas pumping operations. And at the time when I was making videos showing all the drill points, I was being called a tree hugger as I was driving a Hummer. Tree hugger. Me. The only trees I'm hugging are the green kind, and I'm not... Damn hippie. I'm a hippie in that way, not for hugging trees. Anyway, yeah, me and the gas, I don't have any problem. I'm flooring it all the time. Now, these drill points, though. The drill points. Back to the earthquakes. There's a flow that goes down and around, and these drill points are obviously aiding this very low frequency wave to pass through the area. I think normally the seismic wave would have gotten caught up at the ancient volcanic features here in New Mexico and Texas, at Big Bend, Texas, and you'd see a break up in New Mexico. Naturally speaking, that's how all the volcanoes formed along the edge of the craton, I think. And so now all these drill points, it's like perforations in a piece of cardboard. And are we surprised to see the drill points getting hit now? Am I still a tree hugger? I never was, but am I still a tree hugger for showing it? Should I be called a conspiracy theorist and shut down like they were claiming back in 2011 for showing the earthquakes at the drill points? Well, anyway, let's go look at California. Anything changed since yesterday? Let's look at the 0.0 graders and just look at the last 24 hours. Has anything new developed in California worth mentioning? Ooh, hold on. Yes, a new swarm has broken out in Northeast California. Oh no. Dude, we're right by Paradise and Oroville. Okay, can't overlook this. Yesterday, hold on, I gotta prove this to you. Nobody will believe it. Nobody will freaking believe it. Let's go over and open my YouTube page. In this video from yesterday, 14 hours ago or whatever, I bring up and show Northern California, and we look up the earthquakes up here in Northern California. And I brought up the earthquake up here by Silver Lake. Hold on. Silver Lake volcano. See if that brings it up. Okay. That's not bringing it up for some reason. All right, here we go. So even if it's not bringing it up, I showed it in yesterday's video. I showed Sugarloaf Butte and the Buttes Butte. So I zoomed in on these. I talked about the Buttes Butte and Sugarloaf Butte. But this is where the fires broke out previously. Here's Oroville right here. Here's Oroville. Here's Paradise. So when I brought up Silver Lake and talked about the earthquake, it was so. Oh, there it is. Here it is. Here. There it is. So we got the earthquake up here along the power lines. I didn't even mention the power lines, but look how many there are. And now we got a new swarm there, south, next to where the fires were. In yesterday's video, I brought up the quakes up north by Silver Lake, and I said we need to watch down by, and I brought it up, the fire location. Now here we are today, and we're literally, let me hit search again. I just got to make sure on this. How close are we? Because I got the place marks from the fires in 2020. There, 9/6/2020 at Quincy. 50,000 acre fire or something. We are 13 miles. Dude. 21 kilometers. 20 kilometers. 13 miles. Wow. All right, there it is. I mean, come on. Look, this is why you got to pay attention to this stuff. So, earthquakes up here, sign of something to get ready to happen down here. And in this case, fires. I wonder if there's fires there now. The only way to know is to go check. Let's go take a look. So, where? College of DuPage. Let's go to College of DuPage. And let me make sure you can see all this. Weather analysis tools, satellite and radar. We have to go look visibly out in California. Up here in Northern California. It looks like we got some major severe weather going on across right now. What's going on there? Hold on. Oh, wow. Whoa. Oh, yeah, that's natural. Dude, are you kidding me? Look at the freaking storms right now. They're equal spaced. Oh, yes, Dutch. Yes, Dutch. This is totally natural. That's what it is. Look at that. You kidding me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's only one missing right in the middle, and then it would be a perfect line of space storms. Jeez. The spacing on that is very low frequency as well. Anyway, we're going to go. My God, there's so much to talk about here. Let's go look at True Color Image and look out in Northern California. And we'll get a good zoom-in view of Northern California. There we go. So what I'm going to look for are fires. That's what we're going to look for. Just any kind of smoke that might appear suddenly on a clear day. So help me God, if anything happens there, I'm going to freak. Nothing. Just some aircraft man-made clouds. Man-made clouds from aircraft seen right at the end there, those straight lines. Okay, anything else? Okay, so right now, there are no fires, nothing, and I can turn on shortwave infrared to see any little black dots that might appear of fires. I'm making note now that there are none. 0. And no storms. So if we come back in the next few days and some kind of big fires break out in here, this was all a precursor to it, just like the last few times that it's happened that I've documented. This is worth taking the time to look into. Definitely worth taking the time to look into. Now, as for the radar and as for what's going on with the storms, that's a whole separate other video I would need to do to talk about how weather can be modified using the radars themselves. Yes, this is a very, very complex process, but for instance, these tornadoes that are here now, and I'm pretty sure these are actual tornadoes. Let's just go make sure. Yeah, this is a tornado right here, for instance, where the red and the green are rotating. In the green, there's red. Okay. Green is towards the radar. Red is away from the radar. So it explodes right there, but look at that. Okay. I could get and talk. I could lecture for hours on this topic of radar-induced storm formation. Completely separate from earthquakes. Okay, final point on all of this. You're probably going to need to go watch my update from yesterday because I cover all these smaller earthquakes. I looked up the earthquake in the valley, showed my discovery what was in the valley, talked about the earthquakes in Northern California, and now today we follow up with this. So if you're curious and you want to know, you have to go watch my video from me. I'm not trying to self-promote, but it's just repeating myself over and over again if I go over it again. So you just go back and watch the part about Northern California and me looking down here, and then today it breaks out there. That's wild. Seismic, major increase from where we were, which was pretty low. I'll say we were at the low level seismically. People were asking me, is this like end of the world level? No, not even close, guys. I've seen 5,000 earthquakes in a single week. Crash Earthquake 3D, the program that I use here. Once we get to 5,000, it just stops plotting points. Right now, we're at 2,413 for the last 7 days. So we're at about half of the greatest that I've ever seen. And the greatest I've ever seen, number-wise, of earthquakes, I think was 2017 going into 2018. Size of earthquake-wise, we're not even close. We've seen way bigger, and multiples of way bigger. So we've seen 8s pop off across the plates before. So 7s, here we are. We're going up. It's bigger than where we were, which was, like I said, low. But 7s are enough to cause major damage, cause major infrastructure damage, and really, really cause problems for people in the areas where they hit. It doesn't end up causing a tsunami that goes across the whole planet or anything. Once you get to that 9.0 level, like we were in 2011 at the solar maximum, end of solar maximum 2011, Japan, 9.0. Just one example. So we've seen huge megaquake earthquake activity. This is not that yet. That's the good news. So is it end of the world on quakes? No. And other people were talking to me about the diversity of the earthquakes, where they're happening. Is it happening in weird areas? Not really. Not now. Right now, it's following the plate boundaries like we always expect. Now, if I start seeing a bunch of weird earthquakes popping off in areas where I don't normally see activity at all, that would, to me, be diverse earthquakes in diverse areas. So just so you understand, it's not end of the world when it comes to quakes yet. But I do get that question. People asking me, legit asking, is it end times earthquakes? And I say no. We've seen bigger and more and a lot bigger. And these are following the plate boundaries like we expect right now. But if we start popping off all over the place, I'll be the first to tell you. And on the biggest earthquake to ever come in the existence of humanity, the one that's supposed to happen, the one that all the people are looking for that's mentioned in the Bible, I think that one will probably be the easiest to forecast once you see the giant city descending from the sky. And when that sucker makes landing there, and yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be big. It'll be the biggest that ever shook anything. And I believe that will happen. I truly believe that will happen. Yes. But that's just my belief. Anyway, are we there yet with the diverse earthquakes and the big ones? No, not yet. I will tell you if I'm here, I'll tell you. I won't sugarcoat it either. And if anything weird happens, Euphrates dries up, all stuff starts coming out, I'll tell you. If I'm here, I'll tell you. Hopefully we'll have a live stream. My internet will go down, right? I'll be like Woody Harrelson in the movie 2012 where he's standing on the edge of Yellowstone. But in this case, I'll be standing on the edge of the Euphrates, and now it'll become a locust will be coming. When they tell you not to panic, that's when you run! Okay. The guy's an actor. He's reading a script. Oh, man. Okay, all right. Do you have an earthquake plan? People were asking me if it's end times, what's good as planning? I said, yeah, you're right, dude. What good is prepping if it's end times? Anyway, I'd say it's a good idea to have a change of clothes, a set of shoes, flashlight and batteries, and a first aid kit. That would be a good idea just in general to have for storms, severe weather, flooding, in case you stub your toe in the middle of the night and there's power outage, okay? It's a good idea to have shoes by the side of your bed, whether it's end times or not. And if you don't believe in any of that, well, you still should be preparing, guys. You should be preparing. If you're, again, you should have you don't want to be a liability on your neighbors, your friends, your family. When a disaster happens, it's bad enough that you have to clean up everything that's been destroyed. It's worse when there's people who aren't prepared and got injured and didn't have anything and could have prepared when they had the time. And preparing means change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, batteries, all into a kit that you can grab easy. That's what preparing means. And then you can watch the earthquakes come your way. That's what I'm here for. And that's what the arrows are on the screen here for. So you can watch it flow like a river. You'll see it spread and focus in and spread back out. But if you live along the areas, you can watch. And that's huge. It's a big improvement from where we were, which was professionals saying that earthquakes were random. They're not. They're following a path. And if it's following a path, you can watch the path. Basic earthquake forecasting 101. Anything else? 9:23 p.m. Let's save it. Let's save it as a video. It was an all right update. I didn't rant too hard. I only got derailed a few times, and they were actually humorous, so I think we'll be okay. Much love to everybody. Thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for sharing the information. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for paying for the subscriptions over on Twitch and on YouTube. That helps my bottom line. That really does. Other than that, I'll be back, guys. Look, be safe. Peace out.